Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Chrissy Mayer podcast. We are on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, and SoundCloud. If you're listening to us right now on iTunes, please go and leave a 5-star review. For example, guys, I don't know if you realize this. I'm going to read whatever you write in this review. I'm dead serious about it. All right. For example, we have here a review from Mayor McDickcheese. Chrissy is killing it. Free thinking, informative, and overall excellent. Come for the truth seeking and stay for the comedy. The Larry Sharpe episode was amazing. Make some merch. All right, Mayor McDickcheese. You're right. I got to make some merch. Let me know what kind of merch you guys would like to buy. I think you can't go wrong with t-shirts, etc. Maybe a thong. We'll see. Speaking of thongs, you can buy all kinds of thongs and cool sex toys and whatever you need to spice up your life on adamandeve.com. Go to adamandeve.com. It's the #1 sex toy and adult gift shop online. Go right now. If you use the promo code CMP, you're going to get almost any item online for up to 50% off plus free shipping. Get something for your girl, your guy, your sister, your mom. I don't know how close you are with people in your family, but they could probably use more orgasms, whoever they are. So go to adamandeve.com right now. Use the promo code CMP so you can get almost any item online for up to 50% off plus free shipping. Also want to let you know this episode is sponsored by Lucy. Lucy Nicotine is a company founded by Caltech scientists and former smokers looking for a better and cleaner nicotine alternative. Finally, tobacco alternatives that don't suck. These products were researched and developed for 3 years prior to being made, and they're made for people, not patients. Lucy has created a nicotine gum with 4 milligrams of nicotine that come in 3 flavors: wintergreen, cinnamon, and pomegranate. And you don't taste any nicotine in this gum whatsoever. It's very clean tasting. I'm a big fan of the pomegranate. If these flavors are not your thing, they also have a lozenge with 4 milligrams of nicotine in a cherry ice flavor. Each and every flavor actually tastes great. It's convenient, discreet. These products can be enjoyed anywhere, anytime, on flights, at work, on the go, even in the gym. It's the end of December. We're getting into 2021. If you want to ditch your cigarettes, unplug that vape, throw out your dip, I highly recommend Lucy nicotine gum or lozenges. This is the real deal. A subscription to Lucy comes directly to your door each month. So it's simple. You don't have to leave your house because Lucy has delivery down. And for all my CMP listeners, go to lucy.co, use the promo code CMP. You're going to get 20% off all products, including gum and lozenges. That's Lucy, LUCY.co, CO, and use the promo code CMP at checkout. I also have to give this disclaimer. Warning, this product contains nicotine derived from tobacco, and nicotine is an addictive chemical. You know what else is addictive? Savings. Go to lucy.co. Use that promo code CMP. Get your chew on. Just want to remind you guys to hit the subscribe button. Please subscribe to this podcast on iTunes. And also check me out. I'm going to be performing Friday, January 8th at the Hilltop Bar and Grill in Tannersville, New York, with my buddy Amanda Gale opening. Get your tickets now. That show is almost sold out, and I'm so excited to be getting out there doing stand-up again. I am so excited to have this guy on the podcast today. I've been a fan of his for a long time. He is a financial tech and crypto and AI kind of specialist. He's also a tech entrepreneur. You may have seen him on Rogan, Fox, or Vice. It is Bryan Sharpe, aka Hotep Jesus. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you for the wonderful introduction.
You're blowing up right now. You're having a moment.
Am I?
I think so. I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. I've been noticing your Twitter feed. Just a lot of compliments, a lot of people learning about you who, had not heard of you before. A lot of people very excited to hear what you have to say in your message.
Today in particular?
Today in particular.
Yeah, today definitely. Yeah, Tim Pool shouted me out, and then I was like, where did all these followers come from? And then Tim Pool shouted me out. Shout out to Tim Pool. Thank you, bro.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I think your voice is a really important one right now because, you know, tensions feel high. Tell me if I'm wrong, but it's almost like I have friends who are black, and I feel like if I disagree with them politically, like I feel a little
You're
bit,
racist.
I feel exactly. And I feel like honestly, even a little bit afraid to like poke or challenge or even have a discussion because I think a lot of people feel the same way. Like I am kind of afraid of people telling me, "Oh, what do you know? You must be a white supremacist. You must be racist. How could you not understand, how many black people have been killed by cops?" Like that always seems to be the go-to. And how do you not understand, I'll be like, Trump's actually done some really great things for the black community. And I feel like that gets immediately shut down. I'm at the point where it's like, well, I don't want to piss off any of my black friends. It's like, so I don't know. It's like, it's almost like, do you feel like now more like, okay, well, black folks are going to listen to other black folks more so than they would a white person? Or is it more just
Well,
like,
when you compare it to a white person, theoretically, yes, but it depends on the level of indoctrination. Um, Most people have been nearly fully indoctrinated with an ideology not of their own, and therefore they don't think on their own. Um, but they're conditioned, right? So no matter if you're white or black, you're not really going to get through to him. And you need to them, and when you were talking about, hey, you have black friends and should you bring this up, it's like you're going to find out who's really your friend by bringing this up. But that could depend because the indoctrination could be so deep that they feel like you aren't being a good friend by challenging these notions. So it's very, very, very weird time we're in right now. Um, tough place to be. Like the video clip we saw earlier, we said I was blowing up, and I was talking about rules for radicals and how what they want to do is attack your most potent argument, and that's by Saul Alinsky, and that's really what they do is some of the arguments you may make have already been labeled in their mind as racist or white supremacist. So when you bring them up, it's like Pavlov's bell. It triggers them. Um, Very difficult situation that we're in now. I think in order to approach this conversation, it has to be more from a place of inquiry. When I speak to black folks, leftists, I just ask questions and I side with them. I say, okay, what are some problems you have? Police brutality? Yeah, true. Absolutely. I'm an anarchist. So I don't like police anyway, right?
no wonder you like Michael Malice. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the homie,
Yeah. Yeah, he's
Um,
great.
yeah, I love Michael, and he's one of the gurus on anarchy, and I learned a lot from that guy as far as anarchy and a lot of different facts. He's super intelligent, knowledgeable person. But as an anarchist, we don't believe in these entities of the state. So when black people say, hey, police brutality, I'm like, you speaking my language, defund the police. I'm like,
Hmm.
it's dicey because you say defund the police. You see what happened in Baltimore. They basically had free reign now. All the criminals, they're like, oh, it's great since the McDonald's shooting or whatever happened down there. They're like, this is great. Police don't even come down in this district anymore. But it's a war zone, right? So it's that side that could happen. But then another side is like, I'm like, yeah, dude, please defund the police, right? Because then who's going to enforce the lockdowns if we defund
Right.
the police, right?
Exactly. So it's almost like, would you say that you're like beyond liberty? Because libertarians are for limited as less government as possible, and kind of like anarchists are almost like beyond that. We're like, let's do little to no government. Let's have no one in
No
control of
government.
anything. Yeah.
No, not even little,
No,
no government.
not even a little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In an ideal situation, it shouldn't even be called government. It should be like people assistance or something like that. And the only thing they should do is process the request of the people and how the people want it. And I think that the private market can handle and solve a lot of our needs. In fact, when the government wants to, people talk, oh, paving roads. I'm like, well, most of the time the government's going to pay a private contractor to do that anyway, right?
So it shouldn't be up to the taxpayers at all.
Uh, as far as the roads, or
Yeah, because that's people's like, well, if you need to have government because you need to have, roads and firemen and cops. Like that's always what comes up whenever they talk about a smaller government.
yeah, well, the roads are shit anyway. right? Like you got roads from ancient Rome that last longer than the roads we build today in so-called modern
So
times.
true. The cobblestones, right. It's like in New York City, it's like, well, we're paving over these old ass cobblestones that, like, yeah, they're bumpy, but they're fine. They're still strong. It's like, yeah, you go to Europe, like those are all like old ass roads over there. They're still working. So I see your
Yeah,
point.
but you know, even let's say we look at China. China will build, repave a whole road overnight. That's like a 1 month project in America. You know,
Right.
so it's
Right.
the inefficiency of the government that we're talking about here. Um, and when we bring up roads, I'm like, this is something that's so menial that I don't even want to spend my brain power on it. Right? Like there's bigger fish to fry. There's starving children in America, millions of them, you know, and it's just like, you don't think we can handle a small problem like some bitch ass roads?
So without government programs, how do we help starving children? How do we help? I mean, like, yeah, of course there's people who take advantage of the system, but for those that really, really do need it, like, you know, how do you, because you talk a lot about that the answer to bad capitalism is not socialism, it's being good capitalists. And I think that's a fascinating idea. And I was wondering if you could expand a little bit more on that for the
Yeah,
folks listening.
I think there's just too many barriers to entry for entrepreneurs. You know, for example, um, the lockdowns are a great example of, 50% of black businesses is out of business due to the lockdowns. What's that going to do? Is create more poverty and create more dependence on government. Um, for example, if a black woman wants to open up a salon, right? Well, she's got to go get licensed. She's going to have to get licensed by an authority that isn't even of her culture. This is
Hmm.
going to be a Caucasian European person that's going to tell a black person how to do black hair.
That seems crazy. Yeah, I mean, like
That doesn't even make sense?
it's
You
different.
know,
Yeah, everything is different. That's
our hair
like
is completely different, and we're the foremost authority on our hair. So we should be the ones telling somebody, hey, this should be licensed. And if you do license, and if you do hair out of your house, I'm going to come arrest you. Right.
which is insane. Yeah.
Which is really insane. Um, I love the way, if you go look at Milton Friedman's documentary, this all the name of it always slips my mind, but he talks about Hong Kong in there and how Hong Kong is operating with almost no government licensing. You know, you could go to a dentist on the side of the street, get your tooth pulled or whatever, and he's not getting thrown in jail. In America, if you try to practice dentistry without a license, they throw you in jail.
And really, shouldn't it just be like, yeah, I'm going to this basically like this Groupon dentist, like shouldn't it be like at your own risk, just like
Yes.
you're going, yeah, okay, I'm going to take a risk and go to a hair salon that doesn't have I mean, what's the worst that could happen? It really should be up to the people to assume that risk instead
Yeah.
of, you
I mean,
know,
you're going to choose a doctor based upon reviews anyway,
right,
right? And Yelp
right.
reviews anyway. This is how we make our decision. When we go on Amazon, we're going based upon reviews, right? So if you go to a particular doctor and he's got bad reviews, licensed or unlicensed, we're just not going to mess with them, right?
Yeah, that
Same
makes
thing
more
happens with
sense.
plastic surgeons. You're going to go to the person who has the best reviews. You're going to look at people's boob jobs and say, okay, like I like her boobs and this doctor messed up her boobs. We're not going to him. We're not choosing these people because they have licenses. We're choosing them because they've been reviewed. They've been peer reviewed.
Yeah,
So
and if
this
it
whole
if it doesn't go well, they can always, go on botched and then try to make them try to get
right.
their get attention and get their career back, get money to get it redone.
Yeah, and then look at what we do with the tax system. I remember seeing a viral video of a kid when he got his first paycheck, and he's like, "Dad, who's FICO? Why do these taxes are coming out?" And you can say, "Yeah, well, he gets it back at the end of the year," but who wants to wait that long? Give me my money now,
Yeah, what if
right?
I wanted to buy, something for my business now and I needed that money?
Yeah, you need that cash flow. Everybody know about that cash flow. So then, when that money does come through in the next year, you got to pay off debt with it that you incurred throughout the year,
Right,
right?
right, because you didn't have that money up front. Exactly.
Right. So, removing these tax barriers, um, I got to pay taxes on my small business. It's just ridiculous, man. It's just all these governmental restrictions is the reason why people are poor. And I do believe that there would be more philanthropy. For example, We look at Rob Smith, black billionaire. He goes to, I believe it was Morehouse, and he says, look, I'm going to pay off all of your student loans debt for this graduating class. Everybody was shocked. It made world news, right? Or national news. Well, guess what happened a few weeks ago? He got audited by the IRS.
Oh, no.
So here we have our billionaires relieving student loan debt, and now we got the government coming in to check them, right?
Yeah, we
So
got to put a stop to that. Yeah.
yeah, right. So we talk about poverty. Well, it's because you're restricting the rich and you're restricting the poor.
Right. Because it's like you would think, like, yeah, we have enough people who want to do good. And, there's people every year who donate so much money to charity. And you think, like, okay, well, is that, it sounds like, I mean, sometimes I'll hear these numbers. I'm like, well, that should be enough. Although, what the hell do I know? I don't know exactly like how many people need money, but it's like, to me, it seems like there's a lot of like what you said, a lot of philanthropists out there who
Yeah.
want to help the poor directly. It's like, what do we really need the government for? And I remember, like, I was on unemployment like years back, like when I was in between jobs, and I just was like, to me it felt harder to stay and collect unemployment than it was to just like get out there and like get another job. And it's like, I wonder, like, does the system, basically encourage folks to stay on it? It's like, I don't know. It should
Yeah.
be, I wonder why like other people don't feel as I did. Cause I was like, oh, this feels like a pain in the ass to have to submit every week. Like, I don't know. I might as well just fucking give it another whack.
Yeah, the government's completely inefficient, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's another big problem. When we look at the welfare system, it's structured completely wrong. I was watching a Joe Rogan interview with Naval. I think his last name is Ravi Kant. I might be butchering that, Ravi Kant. But Naval was talking about the welfare system, and he's like referring to UBI. Actually, he was talking about, and he's like, UBI. He's not a fan of it, but he's saying that in these type of systems, the best thing to do is, if AI is coming and it's taking jobs, well, just reskill the population that's losing these jobs, because when AI takes jobs, it also creates new ones. So
Yeah.
all you have to do is take that workforce and reskill them. For example, I had an aunt that was working for a Fortune 500 company. All she had was her high school degree, right? And they told her, hey, look, we're bringing in computers now. This is like late 80s, early 90s. We're bringing in computers now, and it's going to help you do your job. And she said, no, I've been doing this 20 years by hand. Well, guess what? She's canned, and now who knows, she's working at Target or whatever now, right? But if the people are willing to be reskilled, we have to reskill them. So the government should say, hey, look, AI is going to be coming. If you want to get on government assistance, fine. We'll we'll support you as long as you're in this reskilling program. We'll support you, take care of your household finances, blah, 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 and then move you into the job force based upon, the new requirements.
Yeah. You're on a track. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, everybody said that, what technology is replacing jobs. Well, it didn't replace jobs when the car replaced the horse. It didn't replace jobs when the computers replaced, hand filing. Right? It just created new jobs and mad more new jobs. So, the big problem is, like I was talking about before, Roots for Radical, is they don't even make space for these arguments. The socialists and the communists control these conversations. For example, when we talk about the lockdowns and we're dealing with the stupid 19 and the vagine, you know what I mean? When we're dealing with these things, it seems that only one side of the argument is allowed a microphone, and the other side is deplatformed. Not even allowed, not even saying, okay, you can't speak, we won't speak to you. They're saying, no, we're going to deplatform, we're going to remove your microphone. And they had I know they were frontline doctors had a gathering in Atlanta this week, and a lot of people showed up for that. But when we talk about this thing called health, we need to have all opinions involved.
Exactly. Yeah, it shouldn't be exactly. If we were able to go or take the advice of like whatever doctor, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, well, he doesn't have his license. Like I just remember growing up, like my mom and I, we would go to like this kooky lady who worked at the health food store, and we would go to her like every week. We would like bond, we'd get a green juice, we'd just like hang out in the health food store. And we learned more talking to this kooky lady than I ever did, like years going to the doctor, years like, WebMD and Googling. I'm like, this kooky lady knows her shit. Like she, doing weird, funny body tests. She'd be like, put your arms out. And then if she could push my arms down, that means I needed more iron or something. Like she was amazing. She was so amazing. And, I that was such an like invaluable resource for me. Was this kooky ass bitch, And then I moved to Westchester, and like I haven't seen her in a while. But and
Yeah.
that's the thing. I feel like that ties into what we were talking about before. It's like, why can't that be why can't the kooky lady be somebody's primary care
Care
provider,
physician.
and
Yeah.
and not be whatever, get in trouble or fined or something. Like if that
Yeah.
lady works for you and that's what keeps you healthy, and what's wrong with that? Like just like like the vagine, why does that I love that substitute, by the way, because people have been saying stabbies. It's like
Yeah.
I always love the word replacements that different like YouTubers and
The
stuff
fact that we
keep
have to
saying.
use them tells you everything
Oh
about where we
man.
are.
Yeah. And so it's like, I mean, I think it's like it's insane. Like I think I'm scared to death that this thing is gonna be like mandatory for everybody. And
Yeah.
it's just like Malice's tweet. I don't know if it was today or the other day, like, yeah, we would have no way of knowing if the vagines cause like massive learning deficiencies, and
Uh-huh.
then you have the whole range of like, you have Alex Jones saying that one of the vaccines has AIDS in it, and then you've got people being like, it's totally safe, can't wait, sign me up. And you've got like your like elites like just arm wrestling each other. They want to be first in line, especially if they're a little older and they're well connected. Like it's all over the map. But it's like, it just scares me to death that the idea that this could be mandated and nobody can sue if it goes crazy, or if you die, or if it renders you infertile.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like it. I really hate the idea of government being in charge of, well, everything in general, but specifically when it comes to your health. Like that's just so damn personal. And it's like I just know, because years ago to the kooky lady, I was like, I was
Yeah.
super healthy, I wasn't coming down with anything. Like, I would get like a canker sore or whatever. She'd be like, yeah, you got to take out dairy, or you got to take a probiotic, and like boom, then I was good. And
Yeah.
instead of like ignoring it, and then you're taking all these other pills, and it builds and builds and builds, and it's like, oh, guess what, you haven't been addressing a problem for years, and now you've got something really serious going on.
Yeah. Like, so in regards to the stabbies, people say, well, why are you so questionable about it? Right. And the fact of the matter is, well, if y'all let us debate, I might be able to trust you. Right. If you bring my doctor and debate my doctor, right? This is what I
Hmm.
say. I had a celebrity come on my channel, and
Ooh, who?
Lupe Fiasco, right?
Ooh.
Now, initially, I said to Lupe, Lupe, hey, are you up to debate? He assumed I was talking about me. I was like, no, I want you to debate my local, my witch doctor, debate my witch doctor. He didn't want to debate him. He wanted to debate me. I'm not the expert. Fine. I debated him. It was great conversation. But why won't the people debate my witch doctor? I had a medical doctor who was in favor of the stabbies. I said, you want to debate? She said, yeah. I said, all right, debate my witch doctor. All of a sudden, I don't want to debate.
Hmm.
Right? You got the frontline doctors. What are the people that are going to debate them? Oh, there's no debate allowed? So how can I trust you? Because when people come to me and they say, hey, you just said something I find ludicrous, I said, well, find your expert and come debate me. I ain't turning it down. Let's have a conversation. I have two to this day for the past, I would say, 5 years. I have yet to have a leftist come on my channel and speak to me.
Hmm.
They'll say that the right is racist, so on and so forth, right? Well, those are the only people that have given me a microphone. White leftists have me blackballed. Black leftists have me blackballed. So they won't come on my channel. They won't allow me on your channel. How can I trust somebody who won't have conversation?
Yeah. And not only do they deem you right, but it's like now the right has now increased and increased to include, it used to just be alt right. Now it's the regular right is alt right. The center is alt right. Even regular ass liberals are now alt right. If you're not radical left, it's like you're the enemy. And so it's like we've increased the number of people and groups who are not allowed to say shit about anything because, oh, wow, suddenly it's like I've gone my whole life without actually meeting a white supremacist, yet apparently they're everywhere. So,
And then the main one, Richard Spencer, endorsed Biden. And not a peep about that.
not a peep. Oh man. Yeah, that's what's like really frustrating. It's like I like what you said, like Black people don't get handed a microphone unless they're parroting the liberal narrative. And then you have, it seems like people are more critical of Black celebrities when they do meet with Trump or have a conversation with Trump, or if they're a little bit, what's considered out of line for them, they get hammered really hard on social media and I think among their peers. Why do you think that is? Is it fear? Is it they're worried about their fans following them, or just
It's
breaking?
like Santa Claus, right? For example, my lady, we're not putting up a Christmas tree this year. So her grandmother asked and said, hey, are you putting up a Christmas tree this year? Because, my grandson wants one. She's like, nah, I don't really got time this year. Da, 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 da. And grandma got upset, right? It's like, okay, well, who's to say that needs to happen, right? Like, who conditioned you to believe that you need to have some tree inside your house? Trees belong outside the house, especially a pine tree, right?
Yeah.
So who conditions your mind to think like this? Now, grandma apologized later and, we got a little tree we'll put on the table and everybody's happy, right? But the problem is who gives you the program? Who conditions you? And
It's
until
like
you
traditions. It's, I don't know. I mean, you could say for the tree, it's your family growing up every year. It's like, it's
the
just what
Christmas
we've always
carols,
done. Yeah.
the TV shows, Home Alone. Yeah, it's all this conditioning, right? Well, the same thing comes for Black people when it deals with Republicans. We're conditioned to believe they're racist. I was conditioned to believe they're racist. I didn't know why. It was just like Republican equals racist. And I just, as a youngster, first of all, as a youngster, you don't even care about politics. So you're just like, all right, whatever. Republicans are racist. We just move on, right? Then you get older and you're like, Republicans are racist. Now, if you're a conscious person, you question yourself and go, why are they racist? Do I have my own findings to come up with that? And you go look it up and you're like, wait. There's way more history saying that the Democrats are racist.
Yeah.
Like when we talk about Jim Crow, yeah, I was Democrats. When we talk about lynching people, Black people, I was Democrats. KKK, Democrats.
The Clintons even like have legit kind of slaves? Like I've read something about, yeah. That's very recent.
That's very recent. Bill and Hillary used the 13th Amendment to take Black prisoners to work on their house, just like a little plantation. Times haven't changed much at all. The slavery has just become more palatable, but it's legal under the 13th Amendment, and she used and abused that, right? The history of racism is more closely tied to the Democrats and the Republicans. So how did we get here, right? So that's some of the things that start to decondition the mind. But coming back to the premise, people have to question why they believe these things. And until they do, or are presented facts, they never will. So once you say Trump is racist, Trump is a white supremacist, and this is repeated over and over again, just like your Christmas carols, the general public is going to say, if X joins Y, then it must be racist. So if Ice Cube talks to Trump equals racism, Ice Cube, what are you doing? The mind is triggered and they're like, wait, hold on. Pavlov has rung the bell. Racist, bark, 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 bark.
Yeah. You must be
you must be
anti-Black.
compromised.
You must be whatever, any of the horrible names, any of the insults that can be thrown around at people like such as yourself or Candace Owens,
Yeah, like the Charlottesville thing, where people say the very fine people, and they pass that myth around. when he clearly said before that, he goes, there were racist and white supremacists down there, and I condemn them. That doesn't make it to the media. They take the one part about very fine people and then run that over and over again. So black people and and white liberals think, oh my God, he just called racist and white supremacists very fine people.
And it works because any man on the street segment you see with like a Fleckus or Crowder or like anybody who's out there on the streets talking to people, that always comes up. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, well, Trump said that white supremacists are very fine people. It's like they did a great job because that's locked into people's minds.
Yeah.
Without them having to really read it or see it.
Jingle bells.
It's jingle bells.
Jingle bells.
Like,
it's the Christmas carol.
My
Yeah. Pavlov's dog. His experiments. Ring the bell, the dog salivates. Jingle bells, Christmas carol, conditioning. They've been conditioned by the media to believe certain things. And that's why I said you can't make fair decisions without looking at both sides. So when you have people who, say, we don't like Trump, I'm like, why? And then you're going to parrot something from the media. I'm like, yo, all right, so you're black, right? Yeah, cool. What's the history of how the media has painted you? Oh, it's been unfavorable. Okay, cool. Is that the same media that told you Trump was racist? Yeah. So you believe them. And then you get that stupid look on their face. But what? Are we believing the media or is the media devil? Because Malcolm X told you the media is the most evil devil in America. So Malcolm X told you, do you believe in Malcolm X? Yeah. Well, Malcolm X said the white conservative is like the wolf and the white liberal is like a fox. You see, the fox is gonna, at least the wolf, is an enemy, potential predator, where the fox is gonna pretend like he's your friend. And when you turn your back, he's gonna catch you, he's gonna bite you. Right?
Which is like you say, Fox. It's like I'm looking at all of this marketing of the stabbies to, in particular, Black people, and I'm like, boy, you know what I mean? Like, it's this whole thing. I feel like the way that BLM has been manipulated, and it's like, and then you take that into, okay, now with the stabbies coming out, like, no, we love Black people so much that you should get it first. And it's like, meanwhile, it's like, we don't really even know what the fuck is in these things. It's like, and then you hear about, everything about Bill Gates and coming from a line of eugenicists. And it's like, you take the things he has actually said in public multiple occasions, and it's just
population control.
Yeah, you put it all together and it's just like a big yikes. And then you look into like the history of Planned Parenthood, and it's like, maybe we should be taking another look at who is getting preferential treatment for these vaccines and what that might really mean.
So Malcolm X said the white liberal is more dangerous than the white conservative. Now, I'm not asking people to go and join hands with conservatives and sing Kumbaya, but when Malcolm X says the white liberal is more dangerous, right? That should alert you and say, wait, that's who we're sided with. You see, Black people have an option to side with themselves. I'm not asking them to side with white conservatives. I'm asking them to side with themselves. Now, if Malcolm X is a prominent leader in your history books, why y'all ain't listening to him? Right? So the white liberal is now pushing the vagine and the stabbies. First person to take it is who? A Black woman.
From Queens, yeah.
What did Malcolm X say? Malcolm X said the Black woman is the most unprotected person in America. And who did we put up first for the stabbies? The Black woman.
Do you think she got paid? I mean, she must have been paid something.
Oh, I can't say that here in the public.
I'm assuming. I'm assuming. I don't know.
I can follow that train of thought. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'd love to speculate on that. I won't, but it's a possibility, especially the way shit goes around with fake news nowadays. But it just goes to show you how they use Black women, how the white liberal uses Black women. So it's like, are we following the words of our leaders, Malcolm X, or are we not? Because they love to use them, when they, the Black left will say, oh, the Black woman is the most unprotected woman in America. Well, that's from the same speech of who taught you to hate yourself. He says, Who taught you to hate yourself before he gets to that line about black women? And that's what we see with the black liberals, right? They hate black conservatives. Who taught you to hate yourself? Right? So you're choosing white politics over racial agreement, I guess, or the word
Yeah.
slipping my mind.
It's
You know what I
interesting because
mean?
I have heard like black liberals say that black conservatives hate, like, well, what do you hate yourself? Like, what do you hate your own people? Like, I've actually
Right.
heard that argument flipped around.
Yes,
So it's
yes.
interesting.
But it's the black liberal who's aligned with the same people. When you look at the problems in America in the so-called urban communities, black communities, right? Oh, they all run by Democrats. And you're going to keep voting in the same people that got your people in poverty. So they say Republicans are racist. When we go look at Detroit, Chicago, LA, this is liberals running it. This is Democrats running it. So who's mismanaging here? It ain't the conservatives, it ain't the Republicans. So they'll counter and they'll say, well, what about the poverty under, the Republicans, the white folks under Republicans? Well, sure, there's definitely poverty, but that's not what you're talking about. You're talking about black poverty, black problems. So are you focused on yourself or are you looking at white folks? This is the trick of the white liberal. That they use black folks like pawns, and mostly black women.
Why do you think that is?
Why the black women?
Mm-hmm.
Because the black community is very matriarchal. You go look at Martin Lawrence. He got a movie. It's called Big Mama's House. It's not called Big Papa's House. When you have, if grandpa buys a house, it's grandma's house. In a black community, where y'all going? We go to grandma's house. You don't go to grandpa's house, even though he pays the note on that.
Yeah, because where's the food coming from?
Right. That's exactly the sustenance comes from the woman. And that's why the black community is matriarchal, because we know life and sustenance comes from the woman. If you know anything about biology, you know every human embryo starts as a female, right? So this is why we're very matriarchal. So they know that, so they use the black woman. And they keep the black woman unprotected by demonizing the black male. So we can't even protect our matriarch. And then they come up with these things like, oh, the patriarchy. I was in a room once with a whole bunch of black liberals, and this racially ambiguous woman was talking about the patriarchy. And I was like, yo, stop using that word. Stop demonizing the patriarchy. Because when you do that, you're attacking black men too. Now, if you want to talk about white male fragility or white male ego fragility, then sure, let's do that. Because there's a lot of little dick energy happening amongst the white liberals. Now let's target that. Let's target that.
That's all of Antifa. It's just little dick energy.
Yeah. But you want to say patriarchy? No. A true patriarchy protects women.
Exactly. It's like when you dismantle that, and it's like we're all on the same team. Like men want to protect women, and women deep down like want and need to be protected. It doesn't make you less strong in other ways. Like men and women have their equal and opposite different strengths, and like we're best when we're all working together. And I know just from my own conditioning in college, women's studies and being a feminist, I graduated college being convinced that I never needed a man and I just need to work, and like I'm still coming out of that in my 30s. I'm still like, oh yeah, I have to like fight that old training. And, basically like my 30s has been like a re-education period, especially like the last few years. And it seems like each group of people, like, that's part of being an adult is that's whatever that spark is. It makes you go, that makes you rethink everything you've been taught and told. And then you do kind of have to come into your own and educate yourself. You, what was your kind of, waking up moment, or have you always been kind of anarchist leaning?
I couldn't say, I would say anarchist was very recent, probably within the past couple of years. Chad Lemoyne of Aquarian Anarchy podcast was handing me some materials like Rothbard and whatnot, and Frederick Bastiat, and I got to reading because initially, like the conditioning, you say anarchy, I think, oh no, danger.
Yeah.
And when he first brought up anarchy to me, I'm like, I don't know, man, what you talking about, this anarchy? That's kind of wild. And he was like, well, check it out. And I was like, all right, I'll check it out. And I got to reading, and I'm like, oh, this is exactly what I be talking about. Yeah, I'm in alignment. Now things are starting to make sense, right?
Mm.
But my father was very aware, socially aware. He passed me books when I was young,
That's cool.
like the ISIS papers. I believe we got our copy in like 93 or something like that by Dr. Frances Cress Wilson, where she talks about the feminization of the male. And she predicted that men would be wearing dresses and skirts today. And here we are, right?
Shout out to Vogue magazine. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been coming for a while. And that's something that is so fascinating to me as a person who studied gender in college. But I've just been always interested in like male, female, you know, relationships and like what is considered masculine, what is considered feminine. And I was just like, you start to think about things now, and you possibly have maybe another country that may or may not want to take over maybe this country. And you think about like, oh, if we take out our natural protectors over a period of years, men are strong, like good men, dissolve the families, take away the strong men. I don't know, sending them to prison for bullshit reasons, or feminizing them, or like whatever, just making them sort of convincing them that all women are garbage. And then you have like incels. There's all these different ways that like men can sort of fade away and like lose their own power, right? Just like there are for women too. But it's like, I'm thinking about that, like, man, if like push comes to shove, it's like we're gonna like need men. I don't know if that comes off like, I don't mean to sound like, like some like weak woman or whatever, but it's like, if there's a real civil war that's going to break out, or just, some real shit goes down, it's like, I'm not saying this well, but it's like you start putting the pieces together and taking away strong men and maybe guns and freedoms. It's like you start to all put it together. You're like, wow, it's starting to look like we're easier and easier to overpower here.
Yeah, USSR, United States, the Soviet Revolution. This is where we're moving to, man. This is crazy. Yeah.
So that's cool. That's really cool that your dad was early on with you,
Yeah, he used to
giving
give me
you
some
books.
wild books
Yeah.
like Rex 84, the AIDS conspiracy, yeah, like some deep heavy stuff. And then like around I want to say early 2000s, I got into InfoWars and Alex Jones and the Bilderberg and the Zeitgeist movie and all of that stuff, and really just started going down these rabbit holes that my father inspired, and really digging in deep. And because when I was younger, my father used to just say, it's a lot about this world you don't understand. One day when you're old enough. So I kind of just, grabbed the baton or the torch and took it to the next level of that. And he's very much a rebel. He's very much outspoken, and I'm a chip off the old block. So I'm very much like my dad. So yeah, like we're inquisitive and outspoken. So when I started doing my studies, I started being vocal about it. So Alex Jones was a huge inspiration. And then I had like my big awakening really for me was more spiritual. And that's how I got the name Hotep Jesus, because I was tweeting straight from my soul, straight from my spirit. And somebody was like, what do you think you are, some sort of Hotep Jesus? And it just rang, So I was like, the best nicknames are exonyms. So yeah, I'll take that,
That has a nice ring to it.
Yeah. So, it's been a wonderful journey, and still so much more learning and unlocking to do, and deprogramming. But I'm loving the journey, and it's still eye-opening and fascinating as you unlock these different doors and depths
And seeing what
to your
connects.
consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, you're talking about spirituality. Yeah, like for me,
No,
like
no, no. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about just understanding our world. Like I had to study for 2 days straight to debate Lupe Fiasco on this, vaccine thing, right?
whoa.
Because I just was like, Y'all won't debate my witch doctors. I'm not looking up this stuff. I hosted a debate. I mean, I hosted Dr. Shiva on my channel. I hosted Sister Samaya on my channel, and then and Project Rook. So I had these experts come on and educate me on a vagine, and I just like, I'm not taking this because I was skeptical anyway. But you guys just provided evidence. I never really wanted to sit down and do the research myself because I'm not gonna take it. I already know it's not safe. From the time you won't, for example, in New Jersey, they were trying to pass a House bill. And the House bill was basically removing religious exemptions from the vagine. So my feelers immediately go, wait, hold on, wait, hold on. This don't make sense. Now, this is prior to Stupid 19.
Really?
Yes, we're talking about December, January.
So it used to be that you could, if you had a religious reason for not taking a vagine, that would be okay.
For the school children, this particular bill was for school children. You could just say I'm religiously exempt.
Okay.
And this bill was introduced. It's also introduced in California. My friend moved away from California just because of this bill. And they're trying to remove this religious exemption. Now, we were able to get it knocked down. People protested outside. If you go type in protests out there in New Jersey, people were out there. Malls were out there. And so I had Sister Samaya, one of the leading mothers, come on my channel and speak about this House bill and whatnot. So when I see that happen, and then right before Stupid 19, I mean, 1 + 1 = 2. I ain't got to do a whole lot of research to know that something's fishy here.
Mm-hmm.
You remove the religious exemptions right before the Stupid 19 hits so you can push the vagine at step 3. So when the debate popped up, I was like, let me start doing some research. I started doing the research. I'm like, yo, this dude Bill Gates got a whole line of going back to his daddy.
Yeah.
And the American Birth Eugenics Society and all of this, and removing undesirables, and the Negro Project with Margaret Sanger, and it's like she wanted to exterminate Black babies, and that's Planned Parenthood. And then I started looking in this Dr. Stanley Plotkin and what he said about the vagine, and he's the godfather of it all. And then I went back to the originator of the vagine, who killed his son experimenting on him and gave him an autoimmune disease.
Oh, I didn't hear about that. Wow.
Yeah, hold on. Let me pull up his name. I had the name in my mind when I was debating Lupe, but just for the audience, I want to make sure I get this name because he is the inventor.
I remember I had Dr. Drew on a previous podcast, and I asked him about what his thoughts on Bill Gates were, and he was like, yeah, I don't understand why people are after him. He's just a guy who wants to do good things. He's just a philanthropist. I couldn't believe, because he was on board with me. He was like anti-lockdown, anti-businesses closing, but then I brought up Bill Gates and he was like, I don't know why he gets so much heat. He's just a nice guy. He just wants to do nice things for people. And I was like, oh, huh. And yeah.
Jingle bells.
Jingle bells. That's a perfect way to.
So the guy's name is Edward Jenner. Edward Jenner is
no relation to Caitlyn.
No relation, potentially. But he killed his son.
Damn. And when did this happen?
Oh man, what year was this? This is, I want to go say this is like 1800s, I want to say.
Wow.
So basically what happened was his son caught an autoimmune disease, and he had other children. He said, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to give the vagine to any of my other kids, because he knew what this was doing, right? And then Stanley Plotkin was talking about how they were testing on Black people in Africa and how much people they killed, and he had no remorse. And I'm just like, drawing the parallels here. And then, Lupe brought up something during our debate. He said, Black people are lactose intolerant, and this is something from cows, the lactate from the cows and all of that. And I brought up, the fact that this has a lot to do with casein protein, and how casein protein takes the calcium from your bones to digest it. So we're starting to see a lot of people today who, like, for example, a few years ago, a basketball player, his leg just snapped in the middle of a game.
Right? Oh, shit.
Yeah, it was
Wow.
just like, it was disgusting. Like his leg just popped out from the shin. Right. So why are people's bones so brittle now? Because it wasn't like that in the past. It's because this milk is leaching the calcium. And they tell you, drink the milk. It's good for you.
The jingle bells growing up is milk builds strong bones. And then
Right.
that was my first like red, like the kooky health store lady red pilled me on milk years ago. She was like,
Mm,
why are humans the only animals who drink another animal's milk? What, how does that make sense? You know?
right.
If animals are out, we're running around in the wild still, like, is it easier to suck on a calf's shit, or is it easier to, like, I don't know, go find some fruit, nuts, kill another animal,
Why
eat
don't
it?
we drink women's breast milk? Why don't we pasteurize that? Right.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that make more sense? Right.
Yeah, and I didn't know that that was a thing where they were saying like black folks are more lactose intolerant. I just figured most people are lactose intolerant for that same reason. Like it leaches calcium from your bones. It's
Yeah.
very hard to digest. It's mucus forming. It contributes to inflammation.
Yeah.
Half the time, if somebody's like sick with a little bit of cold, like you nix a dairy, you're good. It's like the
Yeah.
mucus is just gone. It's like because your
So
body's like, what is this doing here?
the funny thing about the vagine is the origination of that is from the Latin word vaca. Vaca meaning cow.
Cow. What?
So
I
you
mean,
give black people cow.
this is an interesting connection to make. Giving them cow.
This is what we're doing, you know? And I know there's different types of vagines and the mRNA, but even that is like, bro, what? You're going to send some foreign RNA into my body to produce antigens
Mm-hmm.
so you can disrupt my interferon system? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
nah, I'm good on that.
And then possibly fuck with your DNA. You know, it's just,
Right. So
ugh.
with that, what they're saying is that the RNA is only going to communicate with the cytoplasm, which is outside of the nucleus of the cell, right? So the DNA actually exists in the nucleus of the cell. So they're saying that there's a rare chance that the RNA can communicate with the cytoplasm and the cytoplasm reprogram the DNA. They're not saying there's no chance. They're saying it's rare. So it is a possibility that the RNA community. Now, where people get wrong, and this is where we got to be careful when we talk about AntiVaginine, is we're not technical enough on it. We'll say
I know. Yeah.
RNA will reprogram the DNA. But it's like, no, it may trigger something in the cytoplasm, and the cytoplasm could reprogram your DNA.
Okay.
It's similar, but it's not identical. And so we have to be careful when we talk about this stuff. But yes, there's a possibility that the RNA can trigger something within the cell to reprogram your DNA.
An immune response. Yeah. Just like
Well,
they
the
also.
immune response is going to happen anyway, because it's gonna create the antigens, right? And that's going to, well, that right there triggers your immune system, but it's also going to interfere with your interferon system. You know what I mean? So it's going to trigger an immune response.
Just like they don't know if there is an effect on fertility. It's like they're not saying there's no effect. They're not saying it's definitely not going to fuck with your fertility. They're definitely not saying that.
Chinese researchers today on Zero Hedge was published that they said stupid 19 was, affecting sterility. It was creating sterility. The other thing was the swine flu of 1976. Well, the swine flu of 1976 broke out on an army base, right? Military base. I want to say it's Florida. I can't remember. Doesn't matter. But Fort Dix. I'm sorry. It's Fort Knox or Fort Dix, one of them. And the government panics and goes, oh, well, maybe we should issue a vagine. Oh, here y'all go. So they issue it. Come to find out, it never even left the base. Nobody needed it, but there was a group of about 500 people, probably more, but this is what they'll admit. 500 people that did what? They got neurodegenerative diseases because of this.
Whoa.
Because of the vagine, right? So there's something that's happening when we talk about like the autism. There's something happening when you trigger an autoimmune response and have the immune system attack you. But a lot of this stuff is neurological, right? It's causing neurological problems. We talking about neuro, we talking about the brain, right? Talking about the nervous system. Well, it's funny because part of the immune system is the gut brain axis, where the gut
Mm.
communicates with the brain. So there's a connection between your digestion and your immune system in the brain. So when you start messing with all of that and things get out of order, see, people think the immune system is like a line, more it's like a globe. It's a whole lot of things happen. There's a lymphatic system that's involved in cleansing your body, right? And that's not being talked about.
No,
You
not
got,
at all. Yeah.
you got your innate system, your adaptive system, the interferon systems in between. So where are you triggering this stuff at? But it seems to be affecting our minds. And what does government mean? Govern, control, meant, mind. They try to control your mind. You know what I was weird conspiracy theory? Maybe not weird. But we know when you talk about like these autistic people, a lot of them have like these supernatural abilities, but
Great memories.
but socially they're awkward.
Hmm.
I think what it is they're trying to create like a slave army with like who have like these superhuman capabilities, but you can control them because they're just like
A little
they're
off
not.
socially. Yeah. They're
Yeah,
not.
yeah. So you can just say, "Hey, go do this," and they'll do it.
God, that makes sense. And it's like, yeah, every person who, God, I mean, I'll probably get shit, but like, yeah, they're testing us, and the people that end up autistic, it's like, oh, mark it down. Let's see all right, what contributed to this kind of a person, and should we repeat it? Can we repeat it? Let's tweak it.
Yeah,
We're all just like lab rats, man. I mean, that sucks.
yeah.
It's a bleak future, if that's true. But yeah, yeah, smart. And then they already have the capability to kind of use mind control for soldiers, out in the field, like kind of make them less empathetic, sympathetic. It's I don't know. When you
Mm-hmm.
look at the capabilities like our government has in technology, and it's like, well, this could happen. It's like, yeah, if it could happen, they probably will try to make that happen, because they're not just
Mm-hmm.
gonna, like, just like we see with big tech. It's like, yeah, they had the power to be evil or not be evil, right? Like even Google at one point took down their motto that was like, don't be evil, or something like that.
Mm.
Uh, I forget where I was going with this. It's right. It's like Google and the social media companies, like, they knew the addictive nature of it, but they leaned in for a profit. They weren't like, no, let's take care of humanity.
Mm-mm.
Let's back off and not sell
Mm-mm.
Chrissy another Coach purse.
Indeed. What else you wanted to cover?
I think it's fascinating when you talk about the racism of low expectations. To me,
Yeah.
that's pretty brilliant,
Uh,
and I think it requires a little bit of unpacking, because I know a lot of folks have you know been able to acknowledge that there is this kind of like inauthentic pandering to Black people, and it's like it's really come up quite a bit with Black Lives Matter. I mean, I feel like this is a practice that's used by like government, the left, whatever, celebrities. This isn't a new thing, but it just feels new, because it was a lot like this summer with Black Lives Matter. But how does this link to the idea of the racism of low expectations?
well, I gotta go back to the Chris Rock joke. When he talks about um, and there's actually a direct Joe Biden quote from this, where he's talking about Barack Obama, and he says the infamous line, "He speaks so well. He speaks so well." And Chris Rock is like, "Well, what do you expect a Black man to sound like? I was gonna be a good man, master. Like, how are we supposed to
Vote
sound?
for
Like,
me.
vote
Yeah.
for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, how are we supposed to sound? And that's that. It's not like he said, "Hey, this guy went to Harvard and you know this is like some groundbreaking work he put together," right? He didn't cite his work. He went to something as low as he speaks so well. How we speak is irrelevant. What have you done lately? Right? It's a lot of people in this world who do great things. Let's talk about Chinese man. Sometimes he comes to this country, he can't speak too well. Program the shit out of a computer though.
Mm-hmm.
Make some robots though, right? Like this speech thing is something that this white liberal covets as a sign of intelligence, the command of the English
And
language.
quote,
They
good speech is it's subjective, right? It's like
yes.
it depends who you're talking to, what language they're speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've been around computers my whole life. Commodore 64 going back to the 80s. I built my first website in the late 90s, mid to late 90s. I've been around computers my whole life. I get a job and the lady's like, yeah, go in the program and do you know how to use the right click? And I'm looking at her like, lady, come the fuck on. Like, I will run circles around you with these computers. But because I'm a black kid, this is like, I was young and black and, and that's the white liberal mentality. Like, these niggas can't do nothing.
God, like that video of I forget where I saw it, but it was like, again, all these like white liberals on this video being like, yeah, I don't know if black people have access to the DMV. It was like it had
Yeah.
to do with IDs.
IDs. Yeah.
Like should they be required to like get it? And then they would talk to black people, like just man on the street stuff. They'd be like, yeah, I know where the DMV is. It's like, yeah, I know how to go online and renew my license or whatever. And these people are like, what the fuck? Like,
Right.
that blew
Well,
my mind because I
let
was
me
like, I
ask you
can't
this.
believe these people are saying that.
What celebrities has Trump called upon to sit down and endorse him or speak to his audience? You can't name one.
Nobody. Yeah. They've
Right.
if there have been celebrities that have talked to him, it's been on their own volition.
Right.
It's been
On
their
the right.
idea.
So what did the liberals do? They went and called up Cardi B.
Yeah.
That's racist. Why didn't you go for one of our intellectuals? Why didn't you speak to one of our intellectuals to get the message across? Because they think black people are stupid and we're just going to follow behind whatever these rappers say.
Or it's because they think if they get someone who's really smart and black, they're not going to be behind them.
Correct. But
they're going to be like, actually, everyone start your own business. Bye. Yeah.
Yeah. And they control our music. They control our movies. It's all liberal control. You don't see conservative messages. I was talking to black liberals. I'm like, y'all talking about conservatives like they have power in this country. They have no power in this country. I'm like, this whole country is run off of liberal politics. You ain't got not one pro-Trump movie that's going to come out on Netflix. You're not going to have nothing come out of Hollywood that's going to say something. I was watching a show one time, black director, and black kid gets killed by a cop. And the dad is being interviewed on the news. And out of nowhere, the dad just goes, Trump, that Trump. And I'm like, wait, like y'all clipped that audio. You could hear it. Because he's like, oh my God, this cop killed my son, blah, 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 blah. Then it switches off and you just hear that Trump guy. And I'm just like, wait, that was an audio clip put in with his voice later on. But what does that have to do with anything?
Wow.
Right?
It's the jingle bells. Yeah.
It's the jingle bells all over again. I like how you picking up on that. We just
I love that. I love that. Because I was talking to a black friend very recently and he said, and this was the friend that I was talking about earlier, like, well, I didn't feel like I could debate him or challenge him on anything. He was like, he's like, I felt like the riots and the looting that happened over the summer was 100% justified, 100% needed to happen. Because he's like, well, you see what happened to that Target? That's how black people feel on the inside. So he was like 100%, this needed to happen. No one would have paid attention unless there was this much damage and, basically chaos created.
Yeah. When we talk about getting into college, they're even talking about changing the requirements for black people.
Right.
It's as if to say black people are stupid. But when you go look at some of the pure genius of black people across the globe, quite the opposite is true. We've tons of Mensa members, black Mensa members, high IQ individuals, young too. Like I think that one of the youngest Mensa members in the UK is a little black girl. He's like 13 or something like that.
That's cool.
So like race has nothing to do with IQ and intelligence. But to the white liberal, it is, because they think we stupid. And that's racist. That's the exact That's the exact thing they used to do back in the day. Black people are inferior. Look at their skulls. They used to try to examine our skulls
Oh
and try to
man.
say
Yeah, I've seen
we were
some
stupid.
so I've seen some old videos like that. That's crazy. I mean, like that's like I don't know. Can't imagine how that feels, being a Black person watching that. It's like it's hurtful. It's beyond
Yeah.
racist. It's like, damn, that's like they went above and beyond to make things look a certain
It's
way.
just a continuation of that. You're trying to do the same thing that scientists are trying to prove, that we're stupid. We're not stupid. And then the funny thing is they want to talk about, oh, diversity higher. Well, y'all run the whole tech world. The whole tech world is nothing but liberals. So if you haven't met the quota of Black people, well, guess who was being racist? You were, white liberal. Conservatives are blue collar. They don't run these corporations. You do, white liberal. So if
Yeah.
you don't have Black people working for you, guess who didn't hire them?
But it's right. It's like smoke and mirrors. Like every tech company I visited, like it's all like younger white guys.
Yep.
It's the same type, and I don't know. It's then there's another conversation of like, well, just let people do whatever their strengths are. Does every single company have to be the most diverse, or can we just let people who are really good get the jobs? Like for me,
Yeah.
I don't care, what it's like gender or race any of my doctors are, just as long as they're good,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to say something controversial right now. I'm in favor of discrimination. I think that companies should be allowed to say, I'm not going to hire you because you're Black.
Really.
Yes.
What would be a good example of a company that you'd be like, oh, I can understand, or just anybody? They should just
It
be
doesn't
allowed to.
matter. You should be able to say, I'm not hiring you because I don't like Black people. Good. Good. You know what that's going to do? It's going to create resiliency amongst Black folks. It's going to push racial unity. That's the word I was looking for. Racial unity. And we had that in America. And as soon as they passed integration, what happened? Integration was disintegration of the Black family. Marriages tanked, right?
Wow.
Communities destroyed. You know what killed Black Wall Street? Not the so-called massacre, because it wasn't a massacre. We fought back. It's not a massacre if you fought back and kicked ass and rebuilt. We rebuilt. You know what killed it? Integration. Integration
How?
killed
How did integration kill it? Like how?
because all of a sudden that white restaurant down the street that you wasn't allowed at, well, now you are. So now you want to go and taste the white man ice. The white man's ice is colder. Right? So what you did was you created competition for Black business. Black business now has to compete with white business. Before, Black business just competed with Black business.
Right. Okay.
Right? This is why I like discrimination, because you have no choice but to build for yourself. There's a lot of people that practice racial discrimination in America. It's just not forward, right? For example, somebody comes here and builds a corporation from India. You walk in the spot and everybody working there is from India. That's not racial discrimination. That's called nepotism. And I think they have every right to do that.
Right. Just like I worked at an Italian place. Every guy who worked there was like an attractive Italian waiter. I was like, can I get a waitressing job? They were like, no. And then I looked around and every waiter was like an attractive male Italian dude. I was like, oh yeah, this is their thing. Of course. Like,
yes,
all right, I'll see myself out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Everybody should have that right to. That, see, the problem is they realized, see, what we got to understand is that before integration, Black business was rivaling white business.
Wow. Around what time was this?
I'm talking about, Civil Rights Act of 1965. So you're talking about any time before that, before 65, the 50s, even the 20s, when we were talking about the Harlem Renaissance, right? We were doing good, man. We had Black millionaires in America. The first female millionaire in America was a Black woman, not a white woman, a Black woman, Madam C.J. Walker, with her hair care products.
That's cool.
It couldn't be two races if we had a Black millionaire, right? See, that was the beauty of the free market. You can sell your goods and keep it going. But when you got the government legislating and saying who can do what with their business, you just messed with the market. Nah, let the market be what it is. If you want to be stupid and not hire Black people, good. those minds are going to go somewhere else. And the white people that do hire those people, those businesses are going to excel because they have a better job market to choose from.
Right.
And
And
then
it's
the
almost
market
like,
will fix it.
yeah, and it's almost like if that, company, like that person at the company who's like hiring, or maybe if they're racist, and it's like, oh, and if their company tanks as a result, well, then the market has decided. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. That's why I'm a fan of discrimination. Good.
Mm,
Commit your own corporate suicide. Because when
right.
we look at some of the most popping bars, they were gay clubs at a time when it was illegal to be gay in New York, right? Um, when we talk about when black folks and white folks was getting together in speakeasies and partying and dancing together, those are some of the most lucrative businesses.
Yep.
It wasn't the white only spots. The white only spots are white only because they were losing money.
Really? Oh
Yes.
man.
Nobody rich gives a fuck about anybody else. It's
That's for
only when
sure.
you're poor and you're scarce where you try to hoard resources. And this is poor whites. When you look at the history of racism in the South, this is between poor whites and poor blacks. When you're poor,
Right.
you're worried about these resources.
Right. And I mean, when you become rich enough, like when you're rich and famous and you're on that level, it's like, no, but then it really doesn't matter. It's like, oh, we're all part of, then class is king. It's like,
Yeah.
we're all top earners. Our lifestyles are way more alike than people who earn, you know,
Let's look at
less.
the origins of some of the things of socialism in the job market and unions. Well, black folks started competing on price. So employers were using black people to cut the picket line. Right? And then what the communists do? They installed something called minimum wage. And they did this in South Africa. And Walter E. Williams, late great Walter E. Williams, talked about this. In order to protect white farmers and white corporations, they installed minimum wage so black people couldn't compete based upon price anymore.
Whoa.
The origin of minimum wage is racist. That's the origins of minimum wage.
That's mind blowing. Wow.
Then what they do, when they couldn't use black people to cut the picket line, they said, all right, let's use Italians and Irish to cut the picket line. Then the Irish and Italians got hip and they started joining the picket line. And then the unions got real big. That's, you got the explosion of unions, because then you had white and black unions started to come together. Like, yo, you getting screwed and I'm getting screwed.
Yep.
We got to join up. Forget this race stuff. So this racial and racism has been used for a while to create this dichotomy between Southern whites and Southern blacks, both poor. When we look at integration, W.E.B. Du Bois, the NAACP, a white liberal progressive organization, sends W.E.B. Du Bois down to the South. And the black people down South said, we don't want integration. We just want the government to give us the same amount of money they're giving white schools for our black schools. And W.E.B. Du Bois said, no, I'm not going to fight for that. We want integration. And they're like, yo, we don't really care about going to white schools. We just want access to the same resources. If it's money coming from the government, we live in this state too. We pay taxes too. Give us the same budget you send to white schools. That's what they wanted. They didn't want integration. But the NAACP said, no, we want integration. And that was the big compromise. And after integration, like I told you, integration was infiltration and disintegration of the black family.
Wow. So, and then you look at like pockets of humanity that haven't really pushed for integration. Like you look at like the super Jewish like population. I don't know if it's like Orthodox or Hasidic. Like I know one can be one, but the other is not the other. I'm gonna say this poorly, but like they didn't feel the need to integrate. They buy from one another. They live with one another, school with one another, and they're crushing it. You know,
crushing it on in all of Brooklyn. You know what I mean?
And they're not. I don't think they're overall racist as a result. I mean,
right.
So.
Right. Mormons, they get along fine. It was that nothing is worse than trying to force people together. If white folks in the South didn't want to be with black people, they have every right to. Every right to. Look at it today. You got black folks trying to create black only spaces. And that's okay. But when you say white people want to have white only spaces, that's racist. Racist merely means preferential treatment for the race I'm of. And everybody other than black and white people able to practice that all day long without criticism. When black people practice it, white conservatives get upset. When white people practice it, black liberals get upset. Both of them are in the wrong. When Indians come here, they practice nepotism. The Jews practice nepotism. The Asians practice nepotism. But as soon as a white person wants to practice nepotism, they're racist. When a black person wants to practice it, it's racist. And this is the big psyop, to pit white and black people together. White and black people are the lowest earners in America. Both of us. The highest earner in America is the Jew. Higher than the white man is the Nigerian single black man.
The Nigerians are crushing it. Also, I forget who it was. Maybe it was you who tweeted like the Nigerians didn't get the message that they were oppressed or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So where's this racism? The Asians out earn all of us. So how is black people and white people at the bottom? Because that's the big trick, to keep us fighting each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the big distraction.
Yeah. And it's a long history behind it. Long history.
Fascinating stuff. I feel like, do you have a list of books? I'm sure you do somewhere. Just like like a list of books, like if people that are listening are like just ignited by what you're saying and want to, I mean, I've written down a few of them, but I just didn't know if on any of your social media you had like,
there's actually a Hotep reading list.
Oh, sweet. Okay, great.
If you Google Hotep reading list, hotepnation.com, we have one on there.
Okay, great.
If you want to learn about the NAACP and what they did wrong to black folks, just look up the writings and teachings of Marcus Garvey, writing and speeches of Marcus Garvey.
Great.
Thaddeus Russell, Renegade History of the United States. Michael Malice, The New Right.
I love that book. Yeah, I have it.
That's required reading.
Yeah.
I don't know. I got a bag of books.
No, this is a great start.
I got a bag of books right here. That's I don't know. Let me see what's in here. This is mostly this is all business books though. Here's the select writings and teachings of Marcus Garvey. That's in there. I got like 3 copies of this in the house. I can't show you that book. What else is in here?
Sex positions.
No, it ain't that. It ain't that. It's some forbidden people text. Ooh. But yeah, I got it's a lot, and I'm pulling from my brain, which comes from a whole lot of different sources, that I can't just quite recall. But those I mentioned there, especially when we talk about the history of whites and blacks in America. That's Thaddeus Russell. He's done a great job researching some of that. The Walter E. Williams, you got to study his books on South America. You got to study your Thomas Sowell. That's required reading, basic economics. Even just watching some of his debates about minimum wage. And he was talking about how it was pricing. Like today, they talk about, youth unemployment is so high. Yeah, it's called minimum wage.
Wow. Yet they're pushing so hard for it. Like you got to get $15 an hour to. And
that's why I feel bad, because I go to Target and somebody grandma's checking me out. And every single time I feel self-conscious, I'm like, I just feel sorry. I feel I want to tip this woman like $20. Like, damn, you like 60 years old. You got to work at Target. That's a rough life, But when we talk about youth unemployment, used to be back in the day, a kid used to have a paper route.
And it was okay because he lived with his parents, and it was okay. He was only making like a few bucks an hour because guess what? Like you want to work harder and get a better job.
Right. So,
and it's for the people that are, part-time or still living home.
What do they tell you when you go get a job? Where's your job experience?
Right.
If you can't work for a little bit of change, how can you get that experience? Now, this comes back to creating the poor. If I have a business and I want to hire a bunch of people who are willing and able to work, and I don't follow the minimum wage laws, I get thrown in jail. But these people like, look, I'm good. You ain't got to pay me. Just let me work for you. Hotep Jesus, I just want to work for you for free, because I want to learn from you. And that's what a lot of these things are called. They're called apprenticeships. That's what we used to call them, apprenticeships in the black, blue collar field. They call them apprenticeships, right? So you're getting this job to get the experience so you don't got to worry about working for minimum wage in a few years.
Right.
So you could go and get that salary.
Yeah, I remember in college, like, I had a few internships at NBC because I was like, oh, I want to get into this field, and I was able to get it for college credit or whatever. But I mean, it was hard. It was like going back and forth from Connecticut to the city. But I was like, no, this is what I want to pursue. So,
right. And if you wanted, and back in the day, the internships, you could work an internship for free. New York has put in place where you gotta pay now.
wow.
You gotta pay. There's no more unpaid internships in New York City, unless you know some loophole I don't know about. But that's the problem. You got people graduating from college with no job experience, not even that paper route as a kid. And that's due to socialist communist policies like minimum wage.
Plus, they're full of debt from it's cool.
and plus the debt, right? So how is somebody like my daughter supposed to get experience? For example, people always say, yo, you're so intelligent. Did you go to college? Yeah, I went. I ain't graduate. I dropped out. And I dropped out because I realized I was smarter than everybody there. I was hustling kids out their money at school.
Really? What were you doing?
I was selling shoes and other things I can't mention. But
vitamins,
but I was an entrepreneur. And I was like, why am I coming here to go to somebody else to get a job to get money when I can go straight to the money? It just didn't make sense in my mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I was, they said, yo, you got all this experience in the tech world. I got over a decade of experience professionally in the tech world, right? Well, how'd you do that without no college degree? Because I knew what I was doing. I had skills. You see, when you walk into the interview and somebody asks you a question and you explain something that's way beyond their understanding and you have a grasp of this knowledge, a mastery of this knowledge, and they're looking at them other candidates and they're like, I got a board meeting that got numbers to hit next month. They don't care what college you went to. They're going to hire the dude that just showed up with 100,000 followers on his Twitter, a list of companies he's built, and the expertise and knowledge. And it's right off the head like that. So I walk into a company, we start talking about it, like, yeah, you're hired. Yeah, you're hired. Yeah, you're hired. I was working for 2 companies at the same time.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like,
it's cool. Yeah.
So why is that? Because I said skip college and I worked for an agency one time. I took a pay cut to go work for an agency just to pick up the skills. To pick up the skills.
Yep. And it's like, you mentioned before, what was it? The like job training, like what will happen when AI becomes like more prevalent. And I think back, like every job I've had has been training for that job. It's not like every single job has been totally different. You learn on the job anyway. Nothing I do in a previous job prepares me for the new job, because the new job is different people who all work differently. And what the fuck was the point of college?
Yeah, exactly. It's a big scam. It's a big scam. And when they created government-backed loans, it just ruined everything. I had this girl, this black liberal. I was at a Trump rally, and this girl was talking about student loan debt. And I'm like, the problem is the government. She's like, how is it this stuff should be forgiven? I said, look at the price of college. She's like, yeah, the price of college is super expensive. And I'm like, yeah, think about it. If the banks know that there's no way they can lose money on these loans, that means it's free money, right? Cool. It's free gains basically. No risk gains, no risk at all to lend this money. When you lend money, there's supposed to be risk. It's the point of lending money, right? There should be a possibility you ain't getting your money back. There's no risk. So the colleges get hip. They go, wait, the banks ain't got no risk. And they just printing money. Yo, jack the price up. We need to make some money too. They getting paid. We need to get paid. Their money, they're not going to lose any money.
Right. Because if you don't pay your loan back, they're just going to come take it, I guess.
But the school still's getting their money. So the school's like, we're missing out here on a big opportunity if we don't raise the prices.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Because if the bank said, look, we only giving up loans, this risk is too high, we're only going to give loans of 5,000. The school ain't going to have no admissions from people who can't afford it if they
Exactly.
jack their prices high up. So they have to stay in line with what people can afford. That's how the market works.
Yeah.
But when you interfere in the market and make it so that there's no ceiling on what people can afford, the capitalist naturally is going to increase its prices. And this is the problem when socialism interferes with the market. And people think, oh, it's good when the government does this stuff. No, it's not. They need to mind their business, because I remember a time my mom could go get her master's degree and pay it off with a salary with no loans.
Wow.
So that, and that's the problem with the past generation. They say, oh, kids, we got to go to school and get your degree. Look at us. We got a degree. Mom, you paid $10,000 for your degree. It's $10,000 a semester today. And that money don't even spend the same.
No, it's like textbooks are like a couple $100. It's crazy. It's like it's a racket. It's a huge racket.
Even the textbooks were like, wait, oh, the school increased their price? Government-backed loans? Oh, guess what? This textbook is just doubled in price, tripled in price. That's another hustle I used to do. The school used to give kickback for books. If you
right,
buybacks.
you would sell them back. Yeah, you get buybacks. Yeah.
So some of the other kids would go into the bookstore, steal the books, and then sell them back.
That's very clever.
Until the bookstore started realizing, wait, we're in the red here. What's going on? And we got the same amount of books on the shelf.
I just love books. I just love books.
Yeah. It was crazy.
Bryan, you're great. Where can people find you, follow you, support you?
Bryan Sharpe.co, BryanSharpe. The best way to support me is to buy Bitcoin through our company, coinbitsapp.com. That is the best way to support me. If you support that startup, and we get to the point where we can, make a good exit, you can make me a very rich man. If you make me a very rich man, I can go to war with these people. I need the ability to move about the world and connect with the right people without worrying about anything. I need to, for example, George Soros can commission an army to take the streets. I don't have that type of backing. You know what I'm saying?
You don't got that pallets of bricks money. Yeah.
Yeah. But if I had that type of money, I'm not saying I would do that, but I could organize some shit. You know what I mean? That's why I say people just work on my companies, purchase Bitcoin through coinbitsapp.com, grow that. That's a fintech company, real big business we're talking about. We have over 1 million assets under management already. Work with that company, buy Bitcoin from us. It'll make me a rich man, and I'm going to change the face of this country.
And you already are. If someone maybe I'm talking about myself, but if other people listening are clueless about Bitcoin, where could they go to learn more?
I think a good book is probably The Bitcoin Standard.
Okay.
That's pretty much required reading if you want to get into Bitcoin. The big thing about Bitcoin is two main things you have to know about Bitcoin. One of them is permissionless, right? For example, if I want to send somebody $1 million, I can't do it through Western Union without 1,000,001 questions. I can't do it through the bank without 1,000,001 questions. And both of those entities is a possibility they're going to say, no, you can't send that money. With Bitcoin, I just press the send button and it's gone, right? Cool. The other thing is with the fiat, that's endless. They keep printing it. There's only going to be 21 million Bitcoin in circulation ever.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
That's the only amount that will ever be mined. So we're dealing with a real currency. A real currency is supposed to be a finite amount. It's not supposed to be endless, because when you have endless, you have inflation. So those are two things people need to know about Bitcoin.
Cool. Yeah. Interesting. I know what I'm going to be reading this weekend. Bryan, thank you so much for coming on the show. Everybody follow him on Twitter at Hotep Jesus and all the other things he just mentioned. Thank you so much, Bryan. This was great.
Oh, thank you, Chrissy. Appreciate it.